For today specifically, we're going to be looking at Acts 15, 36 through 41. As we talk about finding life and purpose, marching forward, the expanding gospel, the truth is that journey of the gospel expanding oftentimes hits places of tension, places where it's hard, places where it doesn't work. In fact, I want to be really clear. As we read through the Bible, for us to assume that the early church were all these people that had it all figured out and everything worked out great is false. There was tension externally. There was tension internally. And today we're going to examine one of those places. Our text today is Acts 15, 36 through 41. It says this. And after some days, Paul said to Barnabas, "Let us return and visit the brothers in every city where we proclaim the word of the Lord, and see how they are." Now Barnabas wanted to take with him John called Mark, but Paul thought it best not to take with them the one who had withdrawn from them in Pamphylia and had not gone with them to the work. And there arose a sharp disagreement, i.e. they fought. They fought. So that they separated from each other. Barnabas took Mark with him and sailed to Cyprus, but Paul chose Silas and departed, having been commended by the brothers to the grace of the Lord. And he went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches. Okay, so here's the big idea for today. Under the idea of finding purpose, the big idea for today is this. God can use difficult situations to accomplish great things. God can use difficult situations to accomplish great things. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take about a minute or two, and on a piece of paper, it could be the response cards in the chair in front of you. You can do this on your phone, whatever you want to write on. Take about a minute here and write down the hard things that you're facing today, whatever it might be. Might be sickness, might be a relational tension, might be work, can't stay in your job. Just take a minute and write out what are the hard things that you're facing today. Go for it. Write them down. What are the hard things that you're facing today? Somebody right now is giving like the skunk eye to their spouse sitting next to them, right? Like, you're the hard thing. Just kidding, don't do that. Give you another 30 seconds, the hard things that you're facing today. Keep writing if you're writing, that's okay. God can use difficult situations to accomplish great things. Well, we're about to read and study, and we've been looking at this even in the previous weeks, that the church, the inception of the church, the launch of it in Acts, even from early on, we talked about this, 49 AD, the Jerusalem Council, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The church had massive fight tension within it. We're going to read today, we've just read, and we're going to study in depth here in just a moment, that there was tension even among the brothers in the church, right? Even on their mission. The leaders in the church even fought with each other. There was tension externally outside of the church. I mean, as the gospel was marching forward, it came with massive opposition. I mean, at times, it even took life. It was so significant. Listen, if you're facing hardship, if you're facing frustration, if you're facing even difficulty with other Christians, I want you to know you're in good company. You're in good company. You're not alone. I think God purposely sometimes even allows some hard situations to come. This week, whether it's internally or externally. This week I was reading through listening to a scholar, Harrison Mongai. I'm not even sure I'm saying his last name right. Brilliant guy from South Africa. Grew up in South Africa, went and did his undergraduate all the way through school, undergraduate there, and then went to the UK, I believe it was Oxford if I remember right, somewhere out there, and did all his doctoral work, and now he's a scholar. And as a historian scholar, he was walking through the different stages of Christianity as it launched. So it begins a few thousand years ago. Christianity launches out of Judaism, right? The completion of the new covenant. And as it launches, it goes into the world. And as it goes into the world, Christianity hits these phases that are shaped by the culture that they're in, right? So he walks you through this process. He basically says this: in Palestine, at the epicenter, the launch of the church age, in Palestine, Christianity really was a way of doing relationships. I mean, there was so much tension between the Roman people, between the Jewish people, between the Gentiles and the other tribes that would fall underneath that, different nationalities, identities. There was so much tension. Christianity worked as a bonding agent to grab these different people with different ideas, different ideals, and pull them together and weave them into one unified movement. It was a relational bonding agent in Palestine. As Christianity marched forward and culture moved forward, Greco-Roman world comes into play in a significant way. And in the Greco-Roman world, Christianity became a philosophy, a place to battle around ideas. From the Greco-Roman world, as Rome became significantly established, we see that it becomes an institution. Christianity becomes an institution. At this point in Christianity's history, it begins to even adopt terms like diocese. Then from there, you have British people come into power. Britain becomes strong as we march through the ages quickly, becomes strong. And at this point, you see Christianity become a civilization. And this marks a really interesting point in human history, especially within the Christian movement. You have Constantine and the Milvian Bridge and the adoption of the rules of the Bible. You marry them into civil law. Okay, so what happens at this time in history is you take the teachings of the Bible and you take the legal law of the land, right? So you got to obey these or you're going to either be taxed or punished or whatever it might be, right? Go to jail. And they marry the teachings of the Bible with the laws of the land. They marry them together into one thing at this point in history. And this produces some really interesting things. I mean, even today in America, we are always trying to get biblical law to become legal law. And what we want to have happen is we want to make people look like they're Christian. This has one detrimental downside, is that it abandons the primary driver of the Bible, which is supposed to be the heart. As soon as you remove a person's choice to choose this freely, you remove the heart. You remove the heart. So we see this tension begin to grow. In Britain, of course, if you're much of a historian, you're aware of many points of tension within the church as they're trying to marry these two together, the law of the land and the teachings of the Bible, make them one thing. And at this point is also the time where there is massive evangelism happening. I mean, Britain, because of this, there's money behind it. They're sending out missionaries all around the world, and it lands in America. And as America gets their hands on Christianity, America does what America does best. It makes Christianity an enterprise. We figured out how to make lots of money off of this, right? America does it. So as an enterprise, this historian goes on to say that America adopts its values into Christianity and marries them into one thing too. So now the largest and most wealthy organizations are the best. Now with an enterprise mindset, good ideas are the ideas that draw the most people and the most money. We adopt that mindset, the enterprise mindset. With the enterprise mindset, what is wanted, what we can get people to want and desire, wins the day. The marketing enters the church in a significant way. With the enterprise mindset, the customer is always right. He goes on to say that though these aren't necessarily always bad things, these ideas in the church definitely aren't always good things. I believe that God is allowing some points of tension even within Christianity. So tension, God can use even hard things. I believe that God allows some of the hard things to hit, and I think God is allowing a couple of hard things to hit even nationally for us. One is this: I believe God is doing a couple things today in America, in American Christianity, and the truth is it's rather painful. One, God is divorcing, I want you to get this, God is divorcing a single nationality and political perspective from the gospel. He is allowing this to happen. I mean, as scary as this is, for us Christians, long-term Christians, this is a hard thing to think about. He is allowing this divorcing of a single nationality or political perspective from the gospel. Even now, when I was in graduate school at Wesley Seminary, we had to do this work on the trajectory of the history of Christianity. So not just where it's been, but the trajectory of where it's going. And the truth is, most Christians on planet Earth are not going to be in America. They're already not. And so the singular identity of Christianity is shifting globally to a different place, right? The primary engine behind it and driver. Not just that, he is allowing it to be divorced from a political perspective. At this point, we see the Republican Party becoming less and less like Christ, and we see the Democratic Party becoming less and less like Christ. You see this disconnecting, and now both of them are trying to represent this. But the truth is, I think God is allowing this separation to happen, because Christianity doesn't belong to America anymore. Though we thought it did with an enterprise mindset. We thought it's ours. I own it. You need to buy my book to understand Jesus. Sometimes I wonder with God as I look through this, and you study through church history, I look through this and the monetization of the gospel that we did so well, right? We basically found a way in America to insert the dollar sign between Jesus and people. And God is letting that break. He's letting it break. And it hurts. The other thing that we're seeing in America today that's rather quite painful is God is allowing the legal system, okay? God is allowing the legal system to move in a direction that is different from biblical instruction, right? So if you go back to like Constantine, the man of the church, Millennium Bridge, his great vision that he had, and he brings the teachings of the Bible with the legal laws of the land. He pulls them together and makes them one, right? So now it's like you got to obey the Bible or you'll go to jail. Well, America had a little brief season of that but God is allowing even that to go away. And so now the legal law of the land doesn't necessarily match the direction of the Bible. Why is he allowing this? Well, history can teach us, because this isn't the first time through Christian history that we've seen this. History teaches that what it does is it reveals the real heart of people. The real heart. You see, when people choose Christ today, this is a big deal. When people choose Christ today, it is not out of political pressure or fear of breaking the law. Believe me. It's changing. You don't have to follow the rules of the Bible, right? It is because of love. They choose it because now they desire it, as opposed to have it forced upon them. It creates space for heart decision. That said, the longing in our heart for heaven and the missing we have in our heart for Eden is okay. It's okay for us to miss Eden and long for heaven. We long for that. But the truth is, there is only one president, only one king. There's only one person who can truly, justly understand all, righteously lead us. And it's Jesus. And anytime we give the reins of power to a man, we see the downside of that. And God is allowing space for us to long for a true Savior. And He is allowing space for people to choose this of their own volition, their own will, as opposed to have it forced on them. God can use difficult situations to accomplish great things. God can use difficult situations to accomplish great things. Acts 15, 36 through 41, I want to go through this again. Difficult situations. And after some days, Paul said to Barnabas, let us return and visit the brothers in every city that we proclaim the word of the Lord and see how they are. So what does he want to do? He wants to go back and visit the places that the gospel had spread. That's cool. Verse 37, now Barnabas wanted to take with him John called Mark. Now John Mark is a Jewish guy who has a little bit of a heart for Jewish people. Verse 38, now Paul thought it best not to take with him the one who had withdrawn from them in Pamphylia and had not gone with them to work. Now it's important to note, I was doing some original language work here this week. They literally had, this is a really nice way of literally saying they had a fight. They fought about this. I mean, if you've read much of the Bible and much of the Pauline letters, it's pretty easy to see Paul is a lion. That dude is bold. And because of all the stuff that he'd been through, he often attacks some of those Jewish traditions harshly. I mean, this guy boldly steps into it. And so in this, we see, I can only imagine Paul's personality breaking out in this text. They had a legitimate fight. The leaders of the church had a fight. Verse 39, and there arose a sharp disagreement so that they separated from each other. They literally like, I can't do this. I'm not doing it. I'm walking out. I'm done. Barnabas took Mark with him and sailed to Cyprus. Verse 40, but Paul chose Silas and departed, having been commended by the brothers to the grace of the Lord. Acts 15:41, and he went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches. Okay, so what is happening? Let's walk through this really quick. Paul is mad at John Mark and refuses to take him on their missionary journey. He's mad at him, legitimately mad at him. Why is he mad? Well, we don't know for sure. In fact, I think in the Bible, God is really purposely clear. He allows through time the canonization of scriptures, the text. I think there are places he allows for great clarity, and I think there are also places in the text where God allows it to be, well, we don't really know. I mean, I don't think God's in heaven and he's like, oh, dope, we forgot to put that in the Bible. Can somebody add that in real quick? No, that's not the way it works. Like, I think God is purposely clear where he wants to be, and he purposely allows place for us to maybe identify. I think he's purposely clear about the things that we're supposed to primarily be about, and I think it's purposely clear where he's saying, hey, this is there and it's important, but it's not the main thing. I think God, even the priority of emphasis, I think is God ordained. We don't know for sure what caused the fight. I found three primary ideas. One scholar, as I was reading through a bunch of them the last couple of weeks, one of them said this: John Mark was overwhelmed by the opposition on a prior missionary journey. I don't think this is probably correct, but this scholar basically said maybe John Mark, the first time, I mean, these guys were young when they would have started following Christ, and by the time they're walking into this, they walk into the mission field, and when they walk onto the mission field, they're like, holy smokes, that's a legitimate demon-possessed guy. And we might get killed. Look, our friends are being beaten, and we might die for what we believe in. And so this one scholar's like, maybe John Mark got afraid, and he was like, I'm out of here. I can't do this. I don't think that's probably right. One assumption. Another idea that maybe caused the dissension, Paul got mad at him for it, is that John Mark, having a passion for Jewish people, that John Mark knew well of Bar Jesus in the previous stories. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. So this guy that Paul just comes against in a significant way, that John Mark would have known who he was and thought, man, Paul, you were really disrespectful. This famous Jewish person you ripped to shreds, and I don't want to be a part of this anymore, and he left because of that. The third idea, I don't think that's probably right either. The third idea is this, and probably most likely, is that John Mark continually grew frustrated with how harsh Paul was towards Jewish people. And eventually he got to the spot, maybe after the Bar Jesus thing, I don't know, that council, that conversation, but eventually John Mark got to the place where he's like, I'm done. I cannot be around somebody that is constantly berating these people. I'm out of here. And there was sharp tension, and he leaves. We don't know exactly what happened, but we do know this. However it played out in such a significant way among the leaders of the church that it caused tension and ultimately division. The Bible Knowledge Commentary says it really well. Because God still works even through our hard places. God still works even through your hard places. The Lord overruled, the Bible Knowledge Commentary says, the Lord overruled, I love that phrase, he overruled in the dissension, for through it 2 missionaries instead of 1 were formed, one to Cyprus with Barnabas and Mark, and the other to Syria and Cilicia, and ultimately Europe with Paul and Silas. I love the way Crossway, those scholars, I love the way they said it. They said, talking about verse 39, a sharp disagreement, they said, in the sovereignty of God, out of the disagreement came a doubling of their labor. For Barnabas went to strengthen the churches in Cyprus, and Paul went to the churches in Syria and Cilicia, and then Galatia. And in addition, both of their assistants, Mark and Silas, went on to end up having significant ministries themselves. What does this mean for us? Number one, even the disciples fought. Even the disciples fought. Even those that were at the highest level of leadership fought. If you ever go to a church, or you maybe grew up in church and you saw Christians battling things out or wrestling things or fighting with each other, and you're like, oh, you assume in our entrepreneurial, we're going to take the world on, everything ought to be, we're all in one movement, one direction, we want to adopt all these leadership things from the world into our, if you want to assume, I want to tell you something, from the early church on, the church is full of broken people, imperfect, and God uses them to do significant things anyways. Even the leaders fought. The next thing is this, what does it mean for us? Even the disciples disagreed on method. They even disagreed on method. This is funny to me because as a leader and a pastor, people will ask me, like when we're expanding, launching another campus, going out with a new ministry, whatever it might be, launching a new service, taking on a new organization, going on a new mission field, all of the things that the church has been so awesome to see God grow over the last number of years. Every time we march out, people will ask me things like, are you sure God is going to be in this? And what they mean from their entrepreneurial mindset, American ways is, are you sure this is going to be really famous and it's going to work really well and we're going to make money? That's what they're actually asking. And the truth is, I don't know. But it doesn't mean that God can't use it. Is this idea going to create a powerful enterprise? I don't know. But it doesn't mean that God can't use it. We want to be wise, and we want to listen to the elders, and I want to sit down with my LBA, and we want to pray about decisions that are being made, and we do lay it before the Lord. But my goodness, if even the first generation of these people were wrestling through it and fighting through it, absolutely we will too. What does this mean for us? God can use even hard things for His glory. God can use even really hard things for His glory. God can use even really hard things for His glory. What does this mean for us? Don't let hard things, this is really important, don't let hard things keep you from the mission God may be working in it. Way too often I bump, especially when I was doing youth and young adult ministry with young adults, they would leave the church because it wasn't utopia. They expect every service to be incredibly entertaining. They expect there to be zero tension because it's full of Christians. No, man, it's a hospital for broken people and we're wrestling through stuff. They expect to always feel comfortable in worship services. Maybe you're not supposed to be comfortable if you're being challenged always. But what we see in here is even in the hard things, even in the fight, in this text, even in the fight, they don't abandon Christ. Even when they're fighting with each other, they still stay on mission. God may be working in you and may be working on the other person too, even in the middle of the tension. Don't abandon what is transcendently reliable because temporary people are muddying it up right now. Do you see it? What does this mean for us? This is the big thing. Christ redeems. Christ redeems. He redeems. I'm going to invite Brent up, and we're going to be done in about a minute here. Go back to your list. What hard things are you facing today? What hard things are you facing today? What difficult situations are you in today? It may be relational. You're not alone. It may be cultural. You're not alone. It may be personal. You're not alone. It may be physical ailments. You're not alone. It may be financial. You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. Let that sink in. You're not alone. You're not alone. What hard things are you facing today? I'm going to go through these statements. I want you to listen close to them. How has God worked in your heart through this? I was talking with my brother a while back. He's an entrepreneur. He started a number of businesses over the years. And he was talking to me, this is maybe more than a year ago, a couple of years ago maybe. He was talking about the failed business adventures, the ones that went belly up or didn't work out, right? And one of his little things that he got involved in was doing like these, like Jamba Juice. I can't remember what it was called, like Jamba Juice, some kind of like juice bar, those franchise things you can buy into them and start them. So he was getting that going. And for whatever reason, in all of his things that he does, that one didn't work out very well and he had to shut it down. And he was talking about the journey through the failure, and what it did. I mean, like he realized that the favor of God is really important. He realized like it was humbling humility through that. And so even in your situations, I wonder, even in your situations, what could God do through this? What could God do through this? And maybe you're at a different spot. Like maybe you've been through this long enough, you've been able to see God work. You've already been through a hardship, physical sickness, ailment, relational struggles, whatever it might be, and you're already beginning to see, you've been in it long enough, you can already see God working. But maybe you're new enough in this, or maybe for whatever reason you just can't see it. And right now you're going, I cannot see any hope in what I'm in. It makes no sense to me. I don't know what to do with this. Here is what I would say to you. In your heart, you're going to have to make the decision. God, I choose to trust you. I choose to believe in the end, you will make all things just and good. Listen to me clearly. This world is not the end of your story. I love to read. I love getting lost in adventures in a great novel. I mean, like I can read Lord of the Rings or any of these books, right? I can get into them, and as you're reading through them, they take you to another world. You get a sense, passion. You get a sense, a desire to accomplish things that are difficult, or opposition and how they fight against opposition. I love the rich stories of beautiful novels and how they pull you into them. It's amazing. And one thing I know, every amazing story, every great story has some dark chapters. And you might be in a dark chapter now. But here's the truth, and listen to me clearly. The author of your story loves you. The author of your story loves you. The author of your story, he loves you. And the best is yet to come. And my prayer as you see these temporary hardships is that hope would pour over you. because the author of your life loves you. God can use even hard things to do great things. We just want to thank you for watching the sermon online. If God is working in your heart, we would love to hear about it. You can go online, www.encountertrinity.com/nextstepscard. You can fill out information there. Let us know what God is doing in your heart. If you need help with anything, we would love to help. Counseling, we would love to do anything that we can to help you go to that next level spiritually. When you fill this out, it goes to one of our pastors. It is private, and we will take care of that information to the best of our ability. We love you, we care about you, and we want to see God do great things in your life. Have a great day.